Hello, Mountaineer Nation. You heard it here first. The running quarterback label is dead. And it still remains in a lot of circles in the NFL with respect to the ESPN pundits, FSS1 pundits, radio analysts, college pundits still want to throw around athlete, running quarterback, as if the label that you put on these quarterbacks is a cap to their overall potential. Well, we know Jalen Hurts is the most recent quarterback to prove that wrong. Of course, we know he could throw the football, but they didn't believe it. They started using things like, well, he's not passing as well as a Josh Allen or Lamar Jackson. But look what happened. He won the Super Bowl and turned into West Virginia University. All that the dual threat quarterbacks have contributed to West Virginia University is winning, winning, and more winning. So the running quarterback label is dead. It's a disrespect to the position. And when you think about dual threat quarterbacks in West Virginia University history, you have to start with some of the quarterbacks of the past. Some you've never heard of. Ben Williams. Have you ever heard of him? Kirk Lewis. Probably not. John Talley, only because he's the brother of Darryl Talley, who's in the West Virginia University's Hall of Fame. They were quarterbacks back in the day that didn't get to play that much because they were labeled as running quarterbacks, not being developed as passers. That's what that was all about. Mislabeling, exclusion. So we move further. The University of Pitt rejected Major Harris and wanted him to be a defensive back. What happened? He was one of the best dual threat prototype quarterbacks in West Virginia University history. And get the name. Dual threat prototype quarterback. It's no longer great and tradition just to say a traditional drop back quarterback. That is dead today. If you want to win, you have to have a dual threat quarterback prototype at that position. Prototype. It's prototypical to have a dual threat quarterback. That's what it is. And Major Harris was that. He could do them both, but some people get amnesia, so we'll move forward to Rasheed Marshall. He was one of the first dual threat quarterbacks to play for Rich Rodriguez. One of the more underrated quarterbacks, but he was one of the smartest quarterbacks that West Virginia University ever had. Dual threat. Pat White, dual threat, won 4 bowl games. Like Major Harris, he was a winner. He didn't lose a bowl game. And just like Major Harris, winning was in his DNA. And you know Major took us to the pinnacle of the national championship. You move on from there, you get Geno Smith, a mobile quarterback. I wouldn't call him a pure dual threat because he never liked to run. Now that was the beginning of a shift in the Mountaineer philosophy. He was more like a drop back quarterback, but he still had the mobility to escape the pocket, but he just didn't like to do it. So I'll put him as a dual threat in disguise. So we'll move on from Geno Smith. Who do we go to? Well, Skylar Howard went 9-3 for the Mountaineers and did a great job under Dana Holgorsen. He was one of the first quarterbacks that Dana Holgorsen developed. I don't want to hear about Will Greer. He didn't win anything. I don't want to hear about Geno Smith because Coach Stewart recruited him, not Dana Holgorsen. He reaped the fruits of his labor. Geno would have went pro either way. So that's my thinking there. But Skylar Howard, another underrated dual threat quarterback. All he did was win, win, win that season, and he saved Dana Holgorsen's job. If you move on from that, you go to none other than Garrett Green. And you know all about Garrett Green. Garrett Green didn't get the opportunity to play 4 years at West Virginia as a dual threat quarterback. They called him a running quarterback. It's as if the coaching staff wasn't used to coaching that type of talent that could throw the ball and run it. Multi-dimensional, multifaceted Garrett Green. He played his last 2 years and did a good job for the limited coaching that he had. If Rich Rodriguez would have had Garrett Green, you'd still be talking about him. And not with an asterisk that he didn't throw well enough. He was still a dual threat quarterback. And that's my message for today. Get this out of your head about running quarterbacks. It's a disrespect and it's mislabeling quarterbacks and putting a cap on their potential. Listen for it. This coming season, as you hear different analysts talk about quarterbacks, if they just talk about them as athletes, as running quarterbacks, you should tune them out because they don't know anything about the quarterback position. Dual threat is where it is. They never wanted the dual threat. They wanted to stay in the caveman age of the traditional drop back quarterback. And West Virginia was guilty of that because they tried to do it for a lot of years under Coach Brown. And that's the way it went. And if you want to associate winning with the dual threat quarterback, you start with West Virginia University because as I recall, Major Harris was before Patrick Mahomes. He was before Michael Vick. He preceded all of those guys. And he had to fight through the mess because people couldn't understand what a dual threat quarterback was. But West Virginia is the home of the dual threat quarterback. And as long as they don't forget that philosophy, I think that Coach Rodriguez could find ways to win again. But you never underestimate the impact of the dual threat prototype quarterback. You never see it in publications described like that. They like to come up with the athlete at quarterback, the running quarterback. That's when you're trying to put the cap on somebody's potential. And you just can't do it. We're in the age of the dual threat quarterback. You're not going to win at the college level and the NFL level consistently without a dual threat quarterback. So put it to bed, and whatever mislabeling that the pundits are putting on these quarterbacks, just dismiss it as not knowing football. And there you have it. C. Ivan Franklin, One Minority Voice, One View at Befrank4 on YouTube. Subscribe to the channel. But the running quarterback mislabeling is dead. See you later and go Mountaineers!